Ghanaians, fellow Ghanaians, sorry. Now you can subscribe SVTV Africa. Now, honey, super us. SVTV Africa.
Ebusiafo mo wako about SVTV Africa, so my name say Ebano in terms of social issues, entertainment, and sports at SVTV Africa. Mon kwaswa na mundi echi na mon subscribe to your YouTube channel. Na mon support brand no SVTV Africa. So na SVTV Africa Foundation. So do se bi amamo mon ko ye Facebook page ni website nya svtvafricafoundation.com. Yo send be ambo timi support kitwe bi nso ase na be support others in terms of addicts ni stories you get to life stories here monim say yebo anko for na social interventions yebo anko for bibi ye bi say what as SVTV Africa. Okay ti ns obehwa yebo Steven Sanke or addiction professional counselor send be ya onu say de bia no or the send promises every week bia no the bibi bremo no and pampa every week bia so the bibi bremo e wo channel we so SVTV Africa so and then yenko tie ni nhwe ni o de ba before that no mamenda Aseda Shipping Limited ase mo UK nyina no Aseda Shipping Limited mo from na door to door delivery o person mo de boxes bagana bibia o person mo de bagana bia o de from o numbers na wo screen so no o mbeba bibia o UK bia o mbeba no mabeje nyama no mo de gu container na mabro no mo de bagana no mo de abro Aseda Shipping Limited from Sisia.
Hello everyone, you are welcome to another edition of our recovery talk or addiction conversation. So far we have done so well. We have listened to some few conversations concerning addiction and we have read out most of your questions and we are working towards providing you with the right answers to give you the assistance that you need. Today we are just going to make our conversation very brief. Some of you have said that you would prefer that we make our videos really brief for you to have time to look at them well. So today we are going to try to make this one a very brief one and subsequently we'll look at making all of them brief like you requested. Now, we have talked about a lot concerning addiction. Start here and we have described what addiction specifically is. We talked about the causes of addiction. We even went ahead to talk about the underlying factor. So last week when we had our session, one thing that I mentioned and I laid emphasis on is the fact that ubi so bia or using drugs. Ubia said one nom inside or now ubia and memory or that so nom drugs be cocaine, heroin or whatever drugs there is. Ask a simple question. I didn't know nom inside. Why are you using the drugs you are using? Why the cocaine? Can't you see that it is killing you? Can't you do this or that? You will find that yen as papi bia and control. Most of us will struggle to even tell you exactly why we are using these drugs. And like I said last week, it is because the answers that we'll give you, will tell you, I'm using the drugs because I get bored. When I get bored, I don't know what to do. That is why I use the drug. Obi o horse then, I mean appetite. I made a bit the internet. I mean no men sana na se me shiwi no. Obi also say, oh, it no be anything. It just say I want to enjoy myself. We never really give you a tangible reason for our use of the drugs. All of these reasons, I'm saying that is because of our inability to handle our emotions. All the things I'm able in our boredom, excitement, depression, anxiety, all of these things are emotions. But because we are not able to handle our emotions better, no, and most of the time we will find solace in these drugs that we take. And then meningi, makofa, and samenomi and meniaje. Why won't I take the alcohol again tomorrow when I come? I will definitely go back to the use of the alcohol. And do I Madam for be friend say yanko party. Your party ni share mi shanko for bebre. I didn't know how to mingle. I didn't know how to fit into the crowd. Someone gave me a pill. I took the pill and massa, I enjoyed myself. What do you think I'll do the next time? Definitely I'll go back to the use of the drug. Into the underlying factor, even though we have mentioned so many other factors, be as hereditary near the underlying one that I normally like to emphasize on mostly is the fact that our inability to handle our emotions is what causes us to go into addictions the way we do. Now today, what are we going to look at? We are looking at having gone into addiction and having put ourselves in this mess that we find ourselves today. What are some of the causes that we are going to face? There are so many things. Sometimes utumi yare be who wants to know why a junkie and now we are addicted and now anyway now cause we know. Maybe we and don't know all using on shut down name what and what can happen to that person. So today what we want to do is we want to talk about the causes of our addiction. Now the exciting part is that in our subsequent editions we are going to move away from all of this problem of addiction and we are going to gel into what we call the solution. Now in the solution you are going to find that most of the things that we are going to talk about are going to be things that we at home and you can actually make very good use of. But before I digress, let us go back to our conversation concerning what causes or effects of addiction. When we get ourselves into addiction now, any DN, any bit to me out here. Now let me start it and categorize it into two. Let's call one the physical effects. Physical effects in your bit to me out to your honam way and kasa timwe body way and as a man say let's call it the body. Just let me leave it as the body. And then let's call the other effects the effects of the brain or the effects on the brain. To say and also near bit to me out to your dream one kasa because we have already stated say addiction or then brain relapsing disease. It means what we are then affected our journey. Then before we do our journey now, let us talk about the effects on the body. Number one effect of addiction on the body, weakness to our immune system. We all know what an immune system. Immune system no when you train immune system mechanism but part of nipadua ma yetumi kun against yawe bia baya kwemu no. When your immune system is weak, it means that any disease that comes by, you are likely to contract. If your body contracts, you realize you are not able to fight against those diseases well. What addiction does is that it weakens this immune system. Even in our era of corona, you realize that we are being encouraged. So be on trying now on taking any medication or any food that is going to boost our immune system. So our immune system, in addiction, what we do is that we weaken it. Into also being addiction and yes, we no on problem. We end up contracting other diseases. Even skin diseases, other related diseases bianca and addiction or timunanka. That person may likely not have contracted that disease. So the number one thing that we find as the effect of addiction is the fact that it weakens our immune system. The next thing that addiction does is that addiction can cause our heart rates to be altered and therefore causing us to have problems with heart attacks. Into because of insanity pills other drugs na all taking it na kuma no nkasa na say functional, it is no longer functioning like that. We have to be very careful. Anyone who is using drugs should understand that your heart is also suffering. Your heart and other veins are going to collapse. Before you realize you are going to contract this heart attacks and heart disease quicker than obia when you see these things. Maybe now but wow who use drugs no, you are likely to have this problem. Let us look at the third effect. Nausea and abdominal pain. Most of the time you find that why do we become so? Addiction causes us to lose weight because we end up contracting some nauseous, abdominal pains, and even loss of appetite. Because in beginning now, beginning when we start to take these drugs, the idea is that we are getting a certain euphoria, and that is why we keep going back to the substance. Now, sometimes when we take the drugs, some of us gives us the ability to eat well. Nemum ye kodu level bino ubon se na fe do na nsa ye no manka e maye etumi didi no sisi we are not able to eat anymore. Now as a result we are going to contract a lot of other problems like abdominal pains and then weight loss. And so you find most of us who are using drugs or alcohol losing so much weight and they will become slim. This is because of the drugs you are using. There's nothing else to it. It is because of the drugs. When you go into recovery, you find that people who used to be very slim, do recovery now, you start to say you're taking it through the proper process now. In a period of 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, and so one of the effects is what? Weight loss as a result of abdominal pains and nausea and all of these things. Now the next effect that we have to look at, this is something that is normally a common effect. The problem on the liver. When we even buy a box of cigarettes in Ghana, I don't know about other countries, but when we buy a box of cigarettes in Ghana, box now some of the problems that you can contract. Now I'll go to lungs, but let me just touch on the liver first. Now our liver is capable of healing itself. Now when we are in addiction, we cause so much harm to our liver. When that liver is damaged, we are damaged for life. there's a disease we call the liver cirrhosis. It is a common disease as a result of what? Addiction. Yeah, drugs. Those of us into any form of drugs, whether alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, or pills, we are causing so much strain on our livers. Liver also there, it can heal itself, like I said, but if you don't pay so it will not be able to do that because I feel that you are damaging the crowd. So anyone who is using drugs now, please and please again, we have one liver. When we damage this liver, we have damaged it for life. Now let us go on. The next effect that I want to touch on, seizures, stroke. These are common with persons who are using drugs. Whether it is alcohol you are using, marijuana you are using, cocaine you are using, or heroin you are using, you are likely to experience stroke or seizures. Maybe if you didn't used to collapse, you didn't used to black out and all of that. But now blackouts when you to now the hospital and now when you then you are gone. It is because of the drugs that you are using. If you are experiencing seizures and you know you are using drugs and you are experiencing seizures at the same time, please, there's a likelihood that what? It is the alcohol or the drugs that are causing you to have these seizures, and you have to have them looked at immediately. Stroke is another one. When we are growing, we are all likely to experience strokes. But please, if you are using drugs, alcohol, you are likely to get this stroke earlier in your years. And so anyone who is using alcohol, and so these are very serious diseases that we would not want to contract and would have to take them very, very serious. The lungs. When we are using drugs, especially the ones we smoke, we are causing a lot of problems to our lungs. Now, same way we had to go into an argument where people were saying that corona people are saying what the marijuana is helping them not contract corona and all of that. Well, when the argument went on and on, there were so many things that were said. But I just want to say this: once you are smoking, you are causing problems to your lungs. Whatever it is that you are smoking, you are causing problems to your lungs. And so if you are smoking cigarette, know that some of the effects are clearly written on the box. They have even been depicted in images for you to know exactly what you are doing to yourself. And so this is not a hidden secret. This is very open for all of us to know that once you are using drugs, you are causing problems to your lungs. Now let's move away from the physical effects to the mental effects or the effects of drugs on our brains. Like I said, addiction is a brain relapsing disease, and the drugs we take that lead us into addiction are psychoactive in nature. Psychoactive na teacher said then idea once odi to enum na wo mene ye no ebe cause a problem bi ama wadwene na nkasa ema wadwene ne sesa ema wadwene change. Now all the changes now dey ma wadwene. For example, edubo how no ma say ma we high, you release so much dopamine into your system that makes you enjoy life in a certain way. Now oh yes sir over a period things are going to happen to your brain, and your brain is going to change. Some of the problems or some of the bad effects that you are going to experience with your brain. Number one, paranoia. Yeah, weeping. When you say, we are, what me alert, me boy. What me steady say, no, you can actually say, hey, me boy. Sometimes you realize that you become so sensitive to a lot of things around you. Now, one of the effects is that over a period, you begin to become too paranoid about things. You might start thinking that this person is probably going to do this to me. There's nothing wrong with thinking bad about things, but paranoia is the state where you are only stressing on that. You think that no. Now you are reading negative meanings into everything. Now why? Because of the effect of the drugs on your brain. Another one, aggressiveness. People who use drugs a lot. Maybe you might have seen me to be a calm person. I become very aggressive. It's not my fault. It's the effect of the drugs on my system. And so anyone who is currently experiencing some form of aggressiveness, they've realized that no, they didn't used to be aggressive in the past, but currently are aggressive. It is because of the drugs that we are using. So if anyone is currently experiencing some aggressiveness in your family or yourself, and you are using drugs, alcohol, marijuana, opiums, then understand that these could be as a result of the drugs that you are taking. Now another one, hallucination. You begin to see things. We start to say, now feel me because I'm hallucinations is just you seeing things that are not real. Now people see a lot of things when they begin to use drugs. Sometimes they say a lot of things. We will say, or you see drugs. was start take can send be was start maybe one kasa uhunda. These are hallucinations. It is the effect of the drugs on the brain. Brain now stress here, and TCC now what you wanna maybe won't train drugs no can I say what training pono what starting who yoma. And so you are what? You are seeing things that do not really exist. And so hallucinations is one of the effects on the brain as a result of what? Drug addiction. Impaired judgment. People have said in the past that what? Me drive a pan, me drive kama. You are doing so maybe in the beginning because you have not yet gotten to that point of addiction. Now when you get to the point of addiction, even drugs in general, why do we say that what? Don't drink and drive, don't use drugs and drive? Because drugs impair your judgment. Maybe what calculate because watching marijuana be and watching drug be ama wadwe na high no wadwe more fast, so to say, until you are thinking really fast. You are thinking faster than the person standing next to you, but it impairs your judgment, meaning that what adianka first ube susu ato ube susu aye no because of the drugs. Open in time you will find people who are working maybe we ejuma na fe or boss cry or boss na fe boss first na nkonya abo check akama, but because of drugs be use this here no we bibi cry na fe in time na so per results quick decisions be taken. You realize even a family member, a relative be and now wadan for be cry, they just take quick decisions that are not properly thought of. Now finally, let me just touch on the last one. Loss of self. You begin to lose yourself. Originally, you were a good child. You were a good husband. Now wonke busuan mo nanka sebe we a bright child no. Ananka obi anim se nka kweku unanka obema ebusuan no ayeye na mo so nanka ebusuan nyina abeyeye. Na mom because of ensa kakra na we kakra na jot kakra bi a wo shinti sisia everything what is changing. You are beginning to realize what you are losing yourself. You are losing control of who you really were from the onset. Most of us who went into drug addictions have a clear understanding of what this means. There are times when we were told clearly that you are dying, Kweku, why don't you stop this and be free? And we realized we had no control over our own very lives. Now we are saying that the effects of drugs on ourselves is that we lose control of ourselves. So if you are using drugs and you have started realizing that you are losing originality, you are losing who you really were, maybe some 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, then you have to understand that what you are beginning to develop problems with the substance that you are using. Now these effects are just a few to mention. Like we said before, if you have questions or you need us to clarify more or to say more on some of these things, do not hesitate to send your questions to us on YouTube and then we'll answer them for you. So thank you for being part of today's session. See you another time.
Wow, you better Steven Sanke ase addiction professional counselor say every week he be an ultimate teachings we bring the bar because of ghetto life stories near there about addicts ne we no awo fie so no we catch us na be ya usu nkorim say na be ya our family member bi so bi su wom bia we no anama obetuni ade saa so na wankasa so no prepare your mind ni mo saa nyama we teachings we mu bu hwe ni ade a recommend na wankasa recommend mo obi na so sua bibi film na nyina yesua bibi fo se na be ya ye mfa ye hu nkowura saa nyama bi we mu na e ha adwen pa enti teachings we de bae no moma na ye fa hye ekotodwem na ye fa nante e fa mbobra ai madam asese de bia no mo hwe SBTV Africa e fa bi DJ nyame saa na meda Steven Sankase addiction professional counselor say every week he be an ultimately way bre SBTV Africa so also the better House of St. Francis Rehab Center omo behind the more ashama hono e better o say they be an almost support in partnership with SBTV Africa Foundation cause one support addicts no omo person ko Rehab Center ni ade kra yenya ya bo kra betimi ni omo akọ na ya sote no I'm out there. It's a monko na mo share SBTV Africa. If you DJ Nyame, mo subscribe to your YouTube channel. Now mo follow on all social media handles SBTV Africa. My production crew DJ Click early 6:30 in and we share mo chroma simple. Kase tour. Na ma jesu tour so tour bakramo. Fellow Ghanaians. Sorry. Na you go subscribe SBTV Africa. Na honmo. Honmo omo super last us. SBTV Africa.